So let me just take on the folks outside for a moment. These are folks who have an unbelievable case of amnesia. They have forgotten who is responsible for the train wreck of an economy that we have. George Bush and his allies did some very terrible things to this country. And quite frankly, we need the leadership of Chris Dodd to turn that situation around. The folks out there, you know, I was coming in the restaurant, and one of them yells out, "Save your money because you're going to need it for health care." You know what? They don't get it. They don't get it. Millions of Americans don't have health care. And yet we have a senator who, after he speaks, is going to get on a plane and go down to Washington and fight the fight for health care to make sure that all Americans have the ability to care for themselves and their children, that they can go to sleep at night knowing that they won't be bankrupted by the next illness of a child or a family member. We have a senator who comes and goes in our state because he's got to go back to Washington and play a leadership role time and time and time again. The folks out there have forgotten what women's lives were like before we elected Chris Dodd to the Senate to fight the fight for women that needed to be fought. They have forgotten how hard it was to raise a family and to have a child before we passed the kind of legislation that Chris Dodd could rest on his laurels for the rest of his life about. When he passed that law, when he stood up for America's families, he made America a different and better place, and we better not forget it in this room. Dodd fought the fight for Barack Obama. I'm going to tell you something. I'm not sure we would have Barack Obama's great leadership without Chris Dodd. Chris put his name out there and stood for office, and when it was time, he selected a candidate, and he helped that candidate in this state. You know, on Super Tuesday, Barack Obama carried this state. It was an important carry, and we have a great president because of the leadership of that man right over there. Don't forget Chris Dodd. Now let's talk about this year, and just since Barack Obama became president and this Congress was sworn in. You know, tobacco, which is, after all, a drug. We know it's addictive. It's impacted the lives of our grandparents and our parents and maybe even some people in this room. For many years, we knew that this drug needed to be regulated. But that would not have happened without the leadership of Chris Dodd this very year. Thank you, Senator, for getting that job done. When it came to time to play a leadership role in making sure that the assets necessary to get our economy were jump-started, who did the president turn to? He turned to Chris Dodd to make sure that that job got done as well. Thank you, Senator, for making sure that job got done. When legislation came before the Congress to make sure that women would be treated fairly in the workplace and paid fairly in the workplace, the Ledbetter legislation, who got it passed? Thank you, Chris Dodd, for getting that passed as well. So regulation and re-regulation of the financial markets and changing credit card legislation and making sure that we have the kind of information to make wise decisions on behalf of ourselves and our families. Thank you, Chris Dodd, for getting that job done as well.
That's right.
And then when his good friend Ted Kennedy, somebody who I had the privilege of working on his campaign for re-election back in 1976, when Ted Kennedy became ill, who did he turn to? Who did he ask to get the job done? Who did he know that would have the leadership ability, the intelligence, the patience to take and draft a bill and get it through committee and make great judgments about where it could be amended and where it shouldn't be amended? Who did Ted Kennedy believe would carry that fight to fruition? None other than our Senator Chris Dodd. Thank you, Chris Dodd, for getting that done. So, listen, these folks out there, they may forget. Quite frankly, I'm not sure any of them were ever on our team to begin with, let's be honest. couple of them look like wrestlers, if you ask me. They may forget. And you know, even some of our friends may have temporary amnesia. But Connecticut will rise up again. It'll make sure it doesn't turn its back on someone who's never turned its back on us. They will embrace our senator. They will re-elect Chris Dodd. And I'm so proud to be here and be with you as we celebrate his success. Thank you very much.